Okay, let's start the session. I think let's start off with general questions with regards to, sorry, I'm just reading messages. I'm not very familiar with Teams, so just checking the messages. My name is Laetitia, and welcome to everybody. I hope we will have a successful session tonight, and that will help you guys. Let's start off with general questions with regards to the exam. I just want to say ahead of time, I am not too familiar with the online exams, more with the written exams, as I've never written or done an online exam before. But I think most of the questions and answers will relate to both online and written exam. Okay, so anybody with general exam questions, not the questions in the exam, questions with regards to the exam. You can switch your, maybe if you guys just put your hands up and then I will call out and you can switch your audio on and ask your question. Nobody with questions with regards to, general questions with regards to the exam? Okay, great. Suppose everybody is coming back in. Okay, then any module.
Wait, there is one question.
Okay.
There's one hand up.
Okay, yes. I don't know why I don't see it. Okay, the person that's hand is up. I don't know why I can't see it. If you can, there we go. TM. You can ask your question.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. I would like to know about the login in details. I have a problem with those seeing it.
Sorry, I didn't get your question. No?
Yeah, I would like to ask about the logging in details. How can we log in on the online exam?
Okay. Okay, if you can, there we go. If you can just switch your mic off because it's a lot of music noise. Thank you. With regards to the login, you will receive an email from FGASA that will give you the login details. If you haven't received it or not by, say, Thursday, I would recommend that you call the new lady in the office now is, oh my word, I forgot her name. Let me just, I think it's Candy. Yeah, I think it's Cans or Candy. But you can just find the FGASA office and ask if you can please speak to somebody. Thank you very much, Keisha. That you just want to speak to somebody that can help you with the login email. And they will also give you a whole explanation of how to then log in and where. Anybody else? Okay, we've got a comment there. Let me just see where we get those comments. Chats. Okay, it's 9 and the logins were sent yesterday. Check your spam folder. Mine was in the spam. Okay. Got another comment coming in. Sorry, I only see KE. I think that is. There was another question. Yeah, I'm just trying to get to it. I'm a little bit more familiar with Zoom.
I got actually the message from FGASA that So if you already got a login at the beginning, so it's that login that you're going to use for the exam as well. Is that correct?
Do you have two different logins just to understand what you're saying?
No, they sent us a message. Okay, you are going to get an email, blah 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 blah. So, but also this email never arrived to me. So I had sent them a message asking for that email, and what they told me is if you are registered already, if you've got an account, and I think everyone who was learning with the platform has, then this is the account.
Then I presume that
it's a model login.
As far as I know, there is or there used to be a specific password for the specific exam. But I would definitely phone the FGASA office and just confirm with them for those that are doing online. As I say, I can't write the exam because I'm already qualified. So I've never written the online exam. It only came in during COVID. So I have no idea what the processes are specifically for the online exam. Is there any other questions with regards to the exam? Just general information. It is 150 marks for the written exam. The online exam is more marks because it is only multiple choice questions. For the written exam, you might get a few multiple choice questions, but there's not a lot. The rest is all written. You will have 2.5 hours to complete the exam, and the written exam starts at 10. Lesokule, do you have a question? Okay, I'm just waiting for somebody typing. Keisha? You guys are welcome to just switch your mic on and talk to me. No other questions general with regards to the exam? Then we can move on to module related questions. Is there any questions on modules that you would like to know more about or you would like me to explain? Unfortunately, I can't go through exam questions. That would be unfair to the people that are not part of this workshop. So it needs to be more on aspects within the modules that you maybe want me to go over with, or exam related questions. Any questions, guys? This workshop is for you. Okay. Any questions with regards to ethical guiding?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, how can I help you?
Can you please just kindly summarize the last chapter, the last module, which is module 17.
Yes.
I had time studying the last chapter.
Okay, so conservation management and historical human habitation.
Yes,
So,
especially historical human habitation.
okay. With regards to historical human habitation, what is important there is specifically the things that will be important to guide. So, for example, transfrontier parks, biosphere reserves, you need to have knowledge of those and at least must be able to give at least 2 examples of transfrontier and biosphere parks. So have a look at those definitions, and in a nutshell, a transfrontier park is national parks that go over international borders. So, for example, the Kruger National Park, which the fences have been dropped between the Limpopo Reserve in Mozambique. So, although guests still have to drive through a border post, there's no fences that are splitting the 2 parks. So therefore, the animals can now traverse in Mozambique and in the Kruger National Park freely. So that would be a transfrontier park, where a biosphere reserve is it's a protected area, but instead of, if we look at national parks, in most cases in national parks, human settlements have been moved out of the parks, and it's only there for wildlife and conservation. Where with biosphere reserves, it is a protected area, but the humans are still allowed to live in it. So the humans or the human settlements that are in it can now also benefit from the tourism. And the animals and the humans are now sort of utilizing that protected area together. Okay. So that is one thing with historical human habitation. Then general knowledge with regards to South Africa, like for example, how many official languages. For those that already know that sign language have now officially become another official language in South Africa. So whether you answer 11 or 12, both will be marked correctly if that question is asked. Then also know a bit about the 4 historical ages, okay, like your early Stone Age, Middle Stone Age, later Stone Age, and the Iron Age. I will definitely, what you can do is just go and summarize that. So things that is important under that would be the tools that people used. So what tools were used in those different eras. I would, yeah, you can go and have a look at or in your summary put in when this happened. Okay, so what is the time span there? And then learn at least 2 examples of places that fall within those eras. Okay, like Klasies River, Mapungubwe. So just go and summarize that. I would say those are the important things: the tools, the when it happened, and examples of it. Then the part where it covers all the languages. The most predominant languages that are used in South Africa, like Zulu, Afrikaans, English. What are the other ones? Pedi. Just go and look, and where do they speak these languages? Okay. So yeah, I would say that is probably in a nutshell what is important with historical human habitation. When it comes to conservation management, then obviously habitat management plays a big role. So what all falls under habitat management? Like for example, erosion control, and what methods would you use for erosion control? Road maintenance, under that will fall bolsters and mitre drains. So just go and read a bit over that. What methods would you use for alien vegetation removal? What is the difference between an alien plant or an alien species versus an indigenous species? So okay, just know what's an alien species there. You must be able to give some examples of alien species as well. Things like bush encroachment, go and read up about that. The difference between bush encroachment and alien vegetation. Bush encroachment is endemic species, or not endemic, indigenous species to the area, where alien vegetation should not be in that area. Okay, water requirements of animals. Sorry, I'm just running through the manual in my head. Water requirements for animals and why is it important, and being able to give examples of animals that is not or water dependent animals, mobile water dependent animals, animals that are not dependent on water, and have examples for that. I think in a nutshell, that's more or less what is important there.
Okay.
If you guys want, I can go through all the modules and just give you some summary on it.
That would be great. But there's also the question that I have actually the same about taxonomy.
Okay.
To what degree is that needed?
Okay, let me just quickly read your question here. Okay, there's a couple of questions here. Let me just quickly answer that. Would we need to be able to give a complete taxonomy of a particular organism? Mammals are okay, but plants not so much. There's been papers that do ask you that, but it's very familiar animals, and it's the ones that are in the manual. So I've never seen a question with regards to plants or insects or reptiles or any. It's mammals, and it's a lion. Trying to think what other one they've ever asked before. Leopard. I think that's about it. Hyena. Spotted hyena. But yeah, no, they won't just give you a random animal and ask you to classify the animal. It's more the emphasis is more on do you understand what taxonomy is? Can you define it? Do you understand what the importance of it is? What does it show us? It shows the biodiversity of life on Earth. And then do you know the hierarchical order of a taxonomic classification? So from kingdom to species. There can also be some questions with regards to what would birds be classified as. Okay, so that would be aves. That's about taxonomy in a nutshell. Renette, do we study the questions in the workbook? About 30% of the questions in the workbook can be repeated in the exam, but the other 70% would be different questions. But if you've worked through the workbook, it means you've worked through all the modules, and you should have a very good idea of the work itself. Okay. So do you guys want me to run through all the modules quickly? Okay, I've got a few thumbs up there. As I go through it, I don't always get to the chat, so just stop me and ask me if you have a question. Okay, so let's start with ethical guiding. This is a very vast subject. Things that you definitely need to know is what is NDT and what do you as a guide, what is it, why is it important for you as a guide? The same with CAFCITA and the same with FGASA. Now, I generally see that people are quite familiar with NDT and CAFCITA, but a bit lost when it comes to FGASA. So if they ask you what are the, I can't really remember how they ask it, but what does FGASA do? Okay, so there are two things. They set the standard for guiding in Southern Africa, specifically South Africa. So that's the first thing that FGASA does. They set the standard for guiding. And the second thing is they set the code of conduct for guides. Okay, so if you need to explain FGASA's role in the industry, those are the two. Then NDT is where you need to register
Sorry,
to be a legal guide. Yes.
can you please repeat the FGASA roles, please?
The roles of FGASA. So the first one is they set the standard for guiding in South Africa. And the second is they set the code of conduct for guides in South Africa. Did you get that?
Yes.
Okay. So then NDT is the department you need to register with to be a legal guide. And CAFCETA, they issue the national qualification. That's that NQF2 qualification that you are doing now. So under FGASA, it is the Nature Site Guide qualification. CAFCETA, it is the NQF2 qualification. It is exactly the same thing. It's just two different names. Okay, and then they know at least, you should know all of the code of conduct as a FGASA guide. But for exam purposes, know at least two that you can write down. For the people that are doing the online exam, you can't really now just choose two that you're going to learn because they can ask anyone's. Okay, but it should be quite logical, and you should know the code of conduct. You signed for it. Okay, then another thing that is quite important is the differences between a nature guide, a game ranger, and a tour guide. Okay, in a nutshell, a nature guide works with guests, takes on an educational role and reveal and expose nature, culture, and the beauty of the country to guests. A game ranger is more concerned with the conservation of the area and do not work with guests. And a tour guide take you to places of interest. So they also work with guests, but they don't guide them through natural environments. They take them to areas like museums and art galleries and touristy, like the three rondavels and things like that. So it's that person that sits in the bus with a microphone and tell you that there's the Blyder Canyon is to your left. That's a tour guide. Okay. Other important things here, just run through it in my head. What is a ethical guide? Remember, there's three words that are important with defining an ethical guide. It's a person that has passion for nature, that has gained knowledge of nature. That's what you guys are doing now. And the third one, and which is the most important, is respect for nature, for the natural environment. So not just the animals, everything. So whenever there's questions with regards to ethical guiding, remember those three words. Whether you must demonstrate why a guide, so there's a scenario, and why the guide is not ethical, remember those three words. And then remember, a fourth one is also important, and that is safety. Safety of the animals and safety of you and your guests. Okay, so on ethical guiding, that is quite important. Another thing with regards to nature guiding is, what is the aim? What is it that a guide actually does? What is the aim of a nature guide? And there's two important words there, and that is to reveal and expose. So you're revealing and exposing the natural environment, the cultural diversity of South Africa, the beauty of the country, the people of the country. So that's quite important in the aim of a nature guide. Things like vehicle checks are important. Briefings, client checks, why you do it and what would be discussed, what would you check, and on a briefing, what would the briefing consist of? Why is it important? Then with regards to guests, what would be important there is to have some background information about the guest. How can that help you? If you have background information, how can you obtain background information of your guests? Why is it important for you to develop a good relationship with your guests? How would that impact their experience and help you as a guide? So with regards to guests, that is quite important. Also with guests, clothing. What type of clothes would you recommend, especially if guests are going on a walk? What else can there be? That's about, in a nutshell, differences between winter and summer game drives, for example. What will you have on the vehicle during a winter game drive? How would it be different to a summer game drive? Yeah, any questions on ethical guiding? Let me just see if there's questions. Okay. So I'm just reading a message here now from Keisha. Keisha, yes, but it's only for the NQF2s. We did do for Trails Guide and NQF4 before, but mainly people log in to hear what questions they can expect in the exam. And as I said, that would be completely unfair to people that are not joining this workshop if I start giving out questions in the exams. So we stopped that and are only doing it for NQF2s now. I've got a question here. A lot of what I have just mentioned now is not in the workbook. Where would we find this information? Yes, it is a bit of a problem there. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Yahaya. There used to be a manual that had all this information in it. It's a pleasure, Keisha. That had all this information in it, and that what Module 1's questions in the workbook is actually based upon. Now, that manual is not available anymore. FGASA is in the process of rewriting that part, that Module 1 manual, and that would hopefully be released soon. So, yeah, it is a bit of a tricky situation because there is no manual that actually covers that. If there's any specific questions, thanks. Yeah. Okay. If there's any specific questions, for example, within your workbook that you don't have answers for, you're welcome to ask me here as well for it. Okay, and I can help you with that. Sorry, I thought there was another question. But in the meantime, I will continue with the modules. Then moving on to geology. Just want to see if I can get this chat to stay up there. Just hold on a second for me. Nope. Let me see if I can just make this smaller. Sorry, just give me a second, yeah. I'm just trying to do something here so that I don't keep on missing the chats. There we go. Okay. Renette, do you have still questions with regards to ethical guiding? Let's see. So studying from the FGASA learner should be sufficient, or should we also look at something like Pathfinder? Pathfinder is a very good book to get information from. But yeah, for the ethical guiding, I think the manual on module 1 would be sufficient for the exam purposes. And then just follow the ones that I've just gave you information on. Okay, it's got some chats going. Let's just see what that is. I think it would be easier if you guys just switch your mic on and talk to me. It might go a little bit faster than me waiting for the chat to load. Okay, I'm going to continue with geology.
Sorry, ma'am.
No problem.
I would love to know, man. There's a difference between ethical and ethics, or is the one thing?
Ethics is what you hold. That's what you believe in, and ethical is how you behave, I would say, is the answer there. So are you behaving, let's say you say off-roading is unethical, but do you off-road or do you not off-road? If you're not off-roading, it means you're acting ethical. Does that make sense?
Yeah, now I got my point, because I was so confused, because I see there is some written ethics and ethical, but I understand about the ethical. Yeah, my cousin was on about ethics, but now
Okay.
I got a lot.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else? Okay, let's move on to geology. Geology, obviously, for NQF2, the definitions are very important in all the modules. Okay, so what is geology? You should be able to define that. Then some small pointers like things, what is a native element? You should be able to say what that is. You should be able to give examples of it. Your rock types are very important. That is what the majority of the exam questions are about, rock types. So the 3 different ones, to be able to give examples and also how they were formed. Okay. Things like the composition of the earth. You know, in your manuals, you have that round, the round earth, and then the different sections of the earth. So your inner core, outer core, mantle, and crust. Must be able to label that. It's quite important in geology. Okay, what else? Oh, okay, so your fossil fuels. You need to know what fossil fuels are. Minerals. Must be able to define a mineral. Know what a mineral is. Okay, in a nutshell, the building blocks of rocks. What else can there be? You must be able to also practically implement geology. So if you take for example, intrusive igneous rock and extrusive igneous rock. So let's use basalt and granite. Granite being intrusive igneous and basalt extrusive igneous. You should be able to know what type of soils will you get from it, what type of plants will grow in it, and what type of animals will you get in that area. Okay, that's quite important, especially for guiding. And then soils itself, Why are soils important? It gives a place for plants to grow. It keeps it keeps the temperature constant so that plants can grow in it. So go and have a look at soils. What are problematic soils and examples of those? And then the other part that's also being covered is weathering and erosion, the difference between the two. What's the difference between weathering and erosion? If I just go through my head, yeah, I think that's about a nice summary of geology. Any questions with regards to geology? Okay, let's move on to weather and climate. Any specific questions on weather and climate? Okay, let's have a look at it. Obviously, what is the difference between weather and climate? It is, again, the heading of the module, so you should have a good understanding of the difference between the two. The factors that will influence climate, for example, the climate of South Africa, that would be important for you as a guide to know. What else is there in weather and climate? Okay, your different fronts, your cold fronts and your warm fronts, to be able to define it and explain it, and what type of weather can be expected from it. The same with clouds. You must be able to explain how clouds are formed, and then your different cloud groups and what weather can be expected from that. Your climatic conditions over South Africa, how the east and the west differ from each other with the two ocean currents and the different temperatures. So the Agulhas on the eastern side, which is warm, brings rainfall during the summer on the east, and then on the west, the Benguela, which is cold and brings rain during the winter. Should be able to explain that. Winds are very important. Katabatic, anabatic, and berg winds. You must be able to explain it and draw them. Dew point. So if you're able to explain cloud formation, you should be able to explain what dew point is. It's a temperature where condensation takes place. What is wind? So it is the movement of air from an area of high pressure to an area of low pressure. And as that air moves, we call that wind. Okay, I've got a question here. Is a berg wind not a katabatic wind? No, it is not a katabatic wind, because katabatic winds happen specifically at night due to the Earth's surface that is cooling down, because the sun, well, we all say the sun is going down. We know the sun is not going down, but because in this area we have moved away from the sun. So the surface of the earth cools down, and therefore at night we get gust winds coming down the mountain ranges. Where a berg wind is a very specific wind that starts in the interior plateau due to an increase in temperature. And this usually happens during the day. So let's say there in the Free State, you have a sudden increase of about 10 degrees Celsius in temperature. That creates an imbalance in your air pressure. So now wind will start to move due to air moving from an area of high pressure to an area of low pressure. And because there's no obstructions, wind will continue to now move towards the mountain ranges. And then you have that adiabatic lapse rate that takes place, where the temperature of the air that is moving, so the temperature of the wind, is now increasing by 1 degrees Celsius per 100 meters of drop on the mountain. And then by the time we're here in the Lowveld, the temperature of the wind is significantly higher or warmer than that of the ambient temperature that you felt. So this happens during the day, and therefore it's not a katabatic wind. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Is there any tip where I can read that? Because the explanations I found were not very clear.
I think in that exam prep group on Facebook, I don't know if you know about that I've created during COVID. There's actually a chart on there. So you can go to the documents that are shared there. There's a chart there that I explain Berg wind very well, hopefully, I think, very clearly or easily. Do you know of the group?
No, I don't. I don't.
Let me just get the right name for you. I created it so long ago, I can't really remember what I called it. I think it is for FGASA Exam Prep Tribe. Let me just check if that is the right one. Oh, where is my internet now? There we go. Facebook. FGASA Exam Prep Tribe. Yes. So you can just search on Facebook for FGASA Exam Prep Tribe. And then in there, there's actually quite a lot of videos because during COVID, I had live sessions where I covered a lot of these modules, especially for NQF2. Covered it there in quite detail. So you're more than welcome. It's a free group that you can join.
Thanks.
Pleasure. Okay, now let's just find you guys again. There we go. Any other questions with regards to weather and climate? Thank you, Renette. Okay, let's move on to astronomy. Again, you need to know what astronomy is. Okay, a study of the universe in a nutshell. Then know the difference between stars and planets. Know what is our star, the sun. Know what is a galaxy. Know what is a solar system. And in our solar system, to know which planet is the closest to the sun, which one is the closest to the earth, which is the largest planet, okay? Which is the smallest planet, naming dwarf planets. Give an example of name two dwarf planets in our solar system. Okay, so all about the galaxies in the solar systems. Then when it comes to the moon, the phases of the moon, obviously the two specific phases, a waning moon and a waxing moon, be able to define that. For example, a waxing moon is when the moon is moving from new moon to full moon, and a waning moon from full moon to new moon. Then also the shapes of the moon, or what the moon shapes are called, a gibbous and a crescent moon, be able to define that. For example, a crescent moon is when less than half of the moon is illuminated. A half moon is obviously when half of the moon is illuminated, and then a gibbous moon is when more than half of the moon is illuminated. Sorry, I just saw that there's a question. Is there another group? Because the one I'm in doesn't have any documents. It should have documents. I can't think where. Let's get to the end and then I'll quickly check for you and tell you where to go. Otherwise, it will take too much time now. Yeah. Now that I know how to pronounce your name. Okay, back to the moon. So also be able to identify a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse. Okay. So let's say you get, for example, a picture and you must say, is this a solar eclipse or is this a lunar eclipse? Or you must be able to define them. Then things like, if we're still up in space, meteorites. Sorry, there's another chat coming in. Meteorite, what is a meteorite? What's the difference between a meteor and a meteorite? And then also evidence of meteorites that have actually hit the Earth. Thank you, Renette. Then if we look at constellations, there's 3 constellations that is important for you to know of. So the Southern Cross with its stars and how to find south with it. That's important for the Southern Cross. Scorpio, the names of the stars, especially in the head and Antares in the body part. Okay, know those star names. And then Orion, all the star names of Orion. So the shoulders, the belt, the knees of Orion. And then you need to also know when they are visible. Okay, what else? Spring tides and neap tides, definitely need to know about them. So when would you, during which phases of the moon would you have spring tide and when would you have neap tide? Just trying to think what else I can talk about. I think that is about it. Any questions with regards to astronomy? Okay, let's move on to ecology. Any specific questions on ecology? Obviously need to define ecology, and then those different levels that you find within ecology. What is an individual? What's a population? What is a community? What is a biome? What is a ecosystem? What is the biosphere? And there's many different ways that they can ask that in the written exam. Remember, for the online exam, it will all be multiple choice questions. Okay, then trophic pyramids, and be able to identify, give examples and explain your producer, your primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. So it can either be given in that you need to define it and give an example, or you can be given a trophic pyramid that you then need to label. So you definitely need to know how to define and give examples of your different consumers, and also in general, what is a consumer. Then in ecology, photosynthesis is quite important. What are being produced by photosynthesis? What is the byproduct that's being released from photosynthesis? Ecosystems itself, as I say, you need to be able to define what an ecosystem is, but also how do we impact ecosystems. Then have a look at all the different relationships there are. So your symbiosis and all the symbiotic relationships, mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism, and then also predation as a relationship. What is the difference between predation and parasitism? Is an interesting one. Also be ready for examples. So a spider wasp stings a spider and lays its egg on the spider. What type of relationship is this? Now the larvae hatches from the egg and actually eats the spider, what type of relationship is that? So you can also get examples that you need to identify relationships. Then there's also competition, intra and interspecific competition. Need to be able to define it and also give examples of it. I think that is about ecology in a nutshell. Any questions with regards to that? Okay, then the most debated one of them all, biomes. It's the one most people either do very well in or they struggle with. There's not much I can tell you about biomes. This is a learning module. In a nutshell, what you need to know is the rainfalls of the different biomes, where you will find these biomes. There's a very good map in your manuals. Know where each of these biomes are situated. Know flagship species and your tree species, mammal species, bird species, I would say are probably the important ones. Again, for the onlines, I don't know which ones they're going to ask in the online exam. For the written ones, they can literally ask any of it, or they can ask you to name 3 flagship species, for example, in the savanna biome. Any points of interest, like why is the Cape Floral Kingdom so special in South Africa? Okay, how does it differ from the other floral kingdoms in the world? That's because it is the largest contained floral kingdom in the world. Okay, it's not broken up in different patches, like for example our forest biome is. Talking about that as well, what is the largest biome, what is the smallest biome, which biome gets rains throughout the year, which biome gets winter rainfall. So as I said, the rainfalls are quite important. Flagship species, you must be able to define what a biome is, but we've already defined it in ecology, so you should be able to define it in biomes as well. Interesting little tidbits in biomes, like for example, in which biome does fire play a big role? In which biome do termites play a big role? So those type of questions you can also expect. And then a general guiding, you need to understand why biomes are important for you as a guide. Why should you know about biomes? Why should you know about biomes that you're not even working in? Okay, so that is also quite important. Any questions on biomes? I know that is a big subject to learn, but it's also a very interesting subject. Do yourself a favor and go and look up these flagship species. Go read up more information with regards. There's a lot of information on the internet on the biomes. And then obviously you also need to know how many biomes we have. 9.
Ma'am, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding the maps which indicates the biomes, should we,
Yeah.
is it important to know the names of the places?
No. I'm just trying to think if I've seen questions like that before. I would not say, they're not going to ask you in which biome does springbok fall, for example. There's too many places. But you definitely need to know in which areas you find these biomes. And if biomes are falling over different countries or different provinces, know that as well. Okay, like for example, the Indian Ocean coastal belt is KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape. But it also falls in Mozambique. So just read the question very carefully. Do they want to know over which countries it falls or which provinces within South Africa?
Okay.
Okay. It's a pleasure. Okay, any other questions with regards to biomes? Okay, we've already covered taxonomy. Let's move on to plants, trees, shrubs, forbs, and grasses. Any specific questions there? Okay, when we look at plants, you must be able to define what a plant is. And then why is the kingdom fungi not classified under the kingdom of plants, Plantia? Okay, it's all got to do with chlorophyll. So make sure that you know those two differences. And then also when it comes to fungi, before we move on to plants, what are the groups that fungi can be classified into? And that has got to do with how they obtain nutrients. So they either saprobes, so your decomposers, or they in a relationship, symbiotic relationship like lichen, which is a relationship between green algae and fungi, and then parasitic fungi. Okay, and then when it comes to plants, as I said, you must be able to define what a plant is. A very important word in there is that it's autotrophic. Okay, it creates its own food energy. And how do they create it? Through photosynthesis. Okay. How would you identify a tree? That's a very easy one to figure out. Okay. Then the transport system, your cambium within plants, is quite important to understand how it works, what cells are involved in this transport. So your xylem and your phloem, to be able to say what their functions are. What else? What else? You get different lifespans, genetic lifespans of plants. So you get annual plants, you get perennial plants. You need to know what the difference is between those. In the beginning of that chapter, they talk about algae, they talk about cyanobacteria and stuff. Please go and read through that in the importance of it. Why are cyanobacteria important? What purpose do it have? Why is green algae classified under plants, but not all algae, like brown and red algae? Differences between thorns and spines. Then when we look at grass, important there to understand the three, I personally call it the three messages that grass give you when you look at a specific grass species, let's say tassel 3-on. So tassel 3-on, what is its grazing value? What is its ecological status, and what is its succession? Now, they're not going to ask you a grass, but it is important. So they're not going to give you tassel 3-on, but you definitely need to be able to define what is the grazing value of grass and what are the different classification, what's the word I'm looking for here? Groups of grazing value. That's not really what I'm looking for, but high, low, and medium grazing value. Then for ecological status, you must be able to define ecological status. And so how do a grass plant react to an impact? For example, overgrazing, it can either decrease or it can increase. And what does that mean? And then for succession, what is plant succession? And then specifically with grass succession, what is a pioneer grass? What is a subclimax grass? And what is a climax grass? Okay, and how what is the purpose of those different stages that your grass communities will go through to fix a problem? Okay. What else? The inflorescence of a grass plant. So you get 2 parts of a grass plant, the reproductive part and the vegetative part. So the reproductive part, your inflorescence, what is its purpose? Sweet felt and sour felt, that's also important. Yeah, I think that is about it. I can't think of anything else now. Is there any questions with regards to plants? Okay, let's move on to arthropods. Okay, what is an arthropod? What does the word actually mean? Where does it lie in classification? It is a phylum, okay, and arthro means jointed, pods means limbs, so it's all organisms that do not have a backbone, may or may not have an exoskeleton, and that have jointed paired limbs. That's an arthropod. Okay. A life cycle's very important here. So your ametabolic, hemimetabolic, and holometabolic life cycles in insects. And then what it means and examples of it. I think in your books they compare millipedes with centipedes, that table there. Read through that. Can get some questions there. The difference between poison and venom are very popular questions. Ticks was brought in not so long ago into the manual. So please go read up about ticks. Like little one point is like, what is the Haller's organ? What's the purpose of the Haller's organ? Something like that. Why are ticks important? What are their purpose within an ecosystem? Yes.
I think it was mentioned that there are 3 types of ticks, but then only 2 were explained. So there's the hard and the soft shell tick.
Yeah.
So what is the word?
Okay, so what I mean there is you get a 1-host, a 2-host, and a 3-host tick. Do they discuss that in the manual?
Not that I can remember. So
Okay,
say again, what is it called?
Okay, your 1-host and your 1-host, 2-host, and 3-host ticks. So a 1-host tick is a tick that stays on small like rodents and stuff, and they complete their life cycle on that one host. Where a 2-host tick will complete their life cycle on 2 hosts. So it will, for example, start off with a rodent and then move to the size of a cat or dog. Like they will go on to a jackal or something like that and complete their life cycle there. Then your 3-host ticks will also start with rodents, then move to your medium size like an impala, duiker, steenbok. And then it will have its last life cycle when the female will go and lay eggs, will be on large mammals. To go back to your hard and soft ticks, I know there's tampas as well. Your bird ticks, your avian ticks, that might also be the third group that they're referring to.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
So on insects, the general characteristics of an insect that they have 6 legs or 3 pairs. They may or may not have wings in the adult stage. 3 body parts, 2 antennae. So that general, and how does it compare to something like a arachnid? So arachnid have 2 body parts, have 4 pairs of legs or 8 legs, do not have wings, do not have antennae. Let me just see this question here. They mentioned hard ticks, soft ticks, and the third is, oh, okay, yeah, sorry, you're right, yeah. Yeah, you are right there. So can just go and have a look there on the chats. The third one is mentioned there now. What else? Okay, if we go to arachnids, go and read everything you can with regards to spiders and scorpions. There can be many little one-pointer questions like, what are the pedipalps used for in spiders? What are they used for in scorpions? Okay, spiders are used for reproduction. Scorpions, they're used for feeding. Your different scorpions. In the NQF2 manual, they only cover Scorpionidae and Buethidae. How would you see the difference between them? Sure, the weather is really building up, yeah. So your Buethidae will have the small pinches and the thick tail, where your Scorpionidae would be more similar. So a thinner tail with larger pinches. Your medical important spiders, there are 6 of them. The black button, the brown button, the sack spider, the violent spider, 6-eyed crab spider, and the small baboon spider. And then also know there which ones are megalomorphs, which ones are araneomorphs. Okay, and you must be able to know the difference between the two, the megalomorph and the araneomorphs. You need to know what an invertebrate is. And then when it comes to insects, again, why are they so successful? So what characteristics that insects have make them so successful? For example, they can fly, so they can escape predation, and they can easily find another area for food. The fact that they have a metamorphosis, so that your adults and your young are not directly in competition for space and food. What else? So again, what is the importance of mosquitoes? Do all mosquitoes carry malaria? Those type of questions. So no, it's only the female mosquitoes that carry malaria. Yeah, I think that is in a nutshell, more or less, what is important with arthropods. Any questions there? I'm just waiting for a question that's being typed. I don't know if it's with regards to arthropods. Okay, I'm going to continue with fish while Lethabu is typing his question or her question. Fish. The 3 groups of fish, okay, your jawless, your cartilaginous, and your bony fish. That's quite important. Fish senses, important, especially eyesight, hearing, smell. That is important. Teeth, different types of diets, which depends on the teeth or no teeth of a fish. Be able to explain that. The not bursa sac, the oh my word, Laetitia, swim bladder and the lateral line. What are the functions and how do it work? That's quite important. Fish eggs, counter shading in fish. You must also understand the role that fish play in an aquatic ecosystem. So, for example, that fish eats fish. Fish is a major food source for a lot of animals. Fish put nutrients into the aquatic system. Fish also control larval insect populations, especially mosquitoes. Okay, fish. As I said earlier, for the written exams, most of the modules are 10 marks. Fish and taxonomy is usually 5 marks. So there's not a lot of questions on fish. Okay, everybody happy with fish? Okay, let's move on to amphibians. You need to be able to define what an amphibian is and what makes them so unique. Okay, the biphasic life cycle that they have. So where your young is waterbound and your adults are land and water-based. Okay, breeding in frogs, important. What is amplexus? What are the different methods of breeding? Your inguinal, adhesion, and axillary clasps. Need to be able to talk about that. Then also sound production in frogs, what the different calls are, and the different call behaviors, satellite and time sharing behavior. The life cycle of a frog, must be able to explain that. Then the different ways that frogs can protect themselves against predation. So things like flash coloration, cryptic camouflage, they can bite, they can jump to get away. So just go and look at anti-predator behavior in frogs. The differences between a frog and a toad, which also includes their eggs. Counter shading in frog eggs, and then also the jelly covering around the frog egg. That's quite important. We just see the chat. We don't need to know details of each frog family. No, not to the specifics that the manual has. But if there's interesting things like the foam nest frog, the platana, the bullfrog, if they cover interesting facts about, say, specific frog species, read through that. You can get some one-pointer questions. Like, for example, which frog do not have a tongue? That would be a platana. What else? I think that sort of covers amphibians. Any questions there? And we can move on to reptiles. Okay, reptiles. So there's quite a lot that I can ask with reptiles, and they only ask for 10 marks. But definitely know your snakes. Fang structure, different venoms, symptoms of the venom, severity of the venom, which are of severe medical importance. Exceptions to the rule, like for example, the Mozambican spitting cobra has a cytoneurotoxic venom. You must either know that, or you should be able to give examples of snakes with variations in their venom. Then your Solonians or testudines, tortoise terrapin turtles. Important, the differences between them. Where do you find them? What do they eat? The bursa sac in tortoises are important. The difference between, because now we're moving to animals, although frogs and toads also do, to animals that are ectothermic. So definitely know what is the difference between ectothermic and endothermic. And then also, what was it that I wanted to say now? Oh, yeah, the different methods of breeding. So your viviparous, oviviparous, and oviviviparous. What does that mean? Certain important facts about specific snakes, like which snake is the snake that causes the most snake bites or deaths in South Africa. With tortoises, also differences between males and females, or all the different uses for the bursa-sacking tortoises. Crocodiles. There's been previously questions with regards to the breeding of crocodiles. Haven't seen a lot of questions with regards to that lately, but I would definitely go and read through crocodiles. Sure, it's raining. How awesome is that? Wow. Okay, any questions with regards to reptiles? Then we can move on to birds. Okay, birds. What makes birds unique? I think we all know the answer to that one. Feathers. And then there's a lot of things that can be asked with regards to birds. Relatively general knowledge questions like nesting. I can give you birds like a sand grouse and ask you what is the diet of a sand grouse? What is the nesting behavior of a sand grouse? So I don't really know how to prepare you for that one. But nesting and feeding is quite important with the different birds. Things like your food structures in birds are very important because it's one of the ways that birds are being classified. Your passerines, non-passerines, and near-passerines. And you need to know examples of those. Certain behaviors of birds like allopreening, and why do they do that? Brood parasitism is very important. So your different groups of birds that are obligated brood parasites and examples of their host species. The chicks, precocial and autricial. What does it mean? And being able to give examples of that. I'm just trying to think what else. As I said, interesting facts about birds. Go read up about woodpeckers. Your different methods of feather care, like, for example, different methods of bathing, sunbathing, water bathing, dust bathing. And how would you know what food this bird? I can give you a picture of a bird. What does this bird eat, and why do you say that? Okay, so you're obviously going to look at the beak and then say this is an insect or this is a seed feeder. And how do you know it? Because the beak is chronically shaped. It's quite short, so it's a seed feeder. Or the bill is made to crush hard fruits like a parrot. Or the bird is an insect feeder because it's got a long, sharpy point bill. Okay, that is birds. Any questions on birds? Okay, let's move on to mammals. Again, mammals can also be quite vast because FGASA do, I won't say presume, but they do think that most people know a bit about impalas, lions, pangolins, wild dogs, elephants. So they can ask questions with regards to that, like gestation period, diet, weight of the young. When are these animals active? Are they diurnal? Are they nocturnal? Are they crepuscular? Foot structure in mammals, very important. Must know the different foot structures. So your plantigrades, digitigrade, and ungulates or unguligrades. Your digestive systems in herbivores. So ruminants and hindgut fermenters. Andries, I can see you typing. Sorry, I was just going in my head through what different diets like coprophagy, osteophagy, geophagy, piscivores, frutivores, insectivores, and why, for example. Andries, it was a big pleasure, and I wish you all the best for the exam. What else do they? Just general questions like, what's the largest rodent in South Africa? The not a pangolin, Laetitia. Porcupine. How do porcupines transport their young on their backs? Just general questions. There's actually a lot of general questions that can come out of mammals. Okay, that is mammals. Animal behavior. Very important question for a guide would be, why should you know animal behavior? Okay, that's an important one. What is that one part that they cover? What characteristics or categories, I don't know what's the right word here, what an animal is doing, so animal's behavior. What are the four, I think it's categories, or characteristics that you would that you would ask the questions about. So for example, is it a learned behavior? Is it innate behavior? What evolutionary pathways establish this behavior? So just go and read that. It's quite in the beginning of the animal behavior module. You need to know that. Territories and home ranges are important. Then all the different types of behaviors like autotomy, thanatosis, your different grouping behaviors like a caste system, a pair bonding, your matriarchal system, your oligarchy, all of that. Need to know those. Why animals use, I see that now, Lethabu, is animal communication important? Yes. Why do animals use vocal sounds for communication? Okay, and what do they use it for? What other types of communication do you get, like body language, stridulation, those type of communication is important. Pheromones is a big thing in animal behavior. So what are pheromones? What are they used for? Jacobson's organ is important in animal behavior. What's the difference between a lion using its Jacobson's organ to a snake, for example? A lion uses it for reproduction, where a snake uses it for tasting the air, testing the air to find food. Again, you need to understand what's the difference between the individual population and a community here, because that is what you will be talking about with your guests. You're looking at an individual, or you're looking at a population, or you're looking at a community. And what does that mean? And be able to give examples of that. The different glands, so preorbital glands, metatarsal glands, temporal glands, and which animals have it. Also, other questions that can come up is I can give you a track and ask you to identify the track. Look at the size measurements that they give on the track. Don't just look at what the track looks like, look at the size. And if they say that it's a front foot or it's a back foot, so that you, let's say, for example, can say the difference between a white rhino and a black rhino track, not just the rhino, because then it's just half a mark that you get. Okay, because that's why they give you the measurements, so that you can say that it is a white rhino or it's a black rhino. Yeah, I think that is about it on animal behavior. And then we've covered conservation management and historical human habitation already. Is there anything else that you guys would like to ask questions about? Everybody ready and everybody happy? And just throw me a thumbs up. Awesome.
I've one last question.
Yes.
About different kinds of leaf. Did we cover that? So bipinnate and alternate and this kind of things?
No, sorry, I forgot about that. Yes, it's definitely something you need to know. And you also need to be able to identify it from a sketch. So they can give you 3 leaf types there and tell you to say which one is which. So your simple and your 2 compounds. So your bipinnately and your pinnately compound.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else, guys? Yeah, it's not that bad. It's a big pleasure, yeah. I'm really rooting for you guys.